it's Mrs. Harper. Hopefully this is Monday, March 23rd for you. And today we're gonna talk about what you need to know to solve equations using addition and subtraction. So last time I did a video, we had our scale. If you remember, we had our balance scale. And it looked something like this. And on this side, we had an X amount plus some more blocks, and on this side we had some other. Today we're going to do something similar. On this side we're going to have X minus 3 in our container, and on the other side we're going to have 7 blocks. And so this one's a little bit different. The last time we had X plus an amount. And you guys knew if we took 2 away from each side, then we could balance it. But what would it be if I removed 3 from this X side to get 7 on the other side? So our equation would look like this. X minus 3 equals 7. So again, you're going to want to think about what operation would help me with that? What operation would help me to say if I were to take 3 from a number and get 7, what would that number be? So you want to think about the inverse. And we've talked about the inverse before. The inverse is that concept of doing and undoing. So the inverse of addition is subtraction. And the inverse of subtraction is addition, okay? And they are the doing and undoing. So this is that concept that the inverse of one is the other. So if I'm taking 3 away, then the inverse of that would be adding 3. So I would add 3 and add 3 to both sides of my equation. This then would become X plus or minus 0. Negative 3 plus 3 is going to zero out, right? I forgot to point that out on my last video. So I can say this has been zeroed out. So now X alone is equal to 7 plus 3, which is 10. And that makes sense, right? That 10 minus 3 equals 7. Okay, so that's some of the work you're going to be doing on today's worksheet. Yay! Okay, so here we are, we have our worksheet. And in this problem, Cora puts 5 blocks in a bag containing an unknown number of blocks on one part of a balance. She puts 12 blocks on the other part to make the pans hang evenly. How many blocks then are in the bag? So we want to draw a picture to represent the problem and write an expression for the number of blocks in each pan. The number of blocks on the left side is X, our unknown number, plus 5, and the number of blocks on the right side is 12. So to write that equation, we would say X plus 5 equals 12. What operation does the expression X plus 5 involve? When we say operation, we mean add, subtract, multiply, or divide. What is the inverse? And I just talked about that. How do you isolate the variable? And that's when we did the math on the board that made it be X plus 0. So isolating the variable involves doing the inverse to your equation. How do you keep it balanced? To keep it balanced, you do the same thing to one side that you did to the other side to make sure that you're always adding and subtracting in balance. Okay? I want to talk a little bit more about this concept of keeping our scale in balance, because I think that's the tricky part. Remember, we talked about in our example that I could add 3 to both sides, and that would get me X all by itself, right? So if this concept of X minus 3, if I add 3, then I just end up with X. So whatever amount X is, we're going to just hang it off this pan. And then if I add 3 to this side, also plus 3, I get 10. So x is equal to 10. So this concept that whatever I put or take away from one side, I must also do to the other side is the way that we keep this in balance. You can think of this as actual things with actual weight, but we just want to also consider it as equal quantities, okay? So 2 new concepts for you for this lesson are this concept of the inverse of an operation, and that the inverse of adding is subtracting, and the inverse of subtracting is adding. Okay, so that's one. And then this other concept of balance, which means that what you do to one side of the scale, you would do to the other. So whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Okay, I really wish we were together so I could answer all of your questions. I have a feeling you'll have quite a few. I will be available online. I can always open up a Zoom room or a Google Hangout or something like that. So don't hesitate to reach out. If we'd been together, we would have taken a bunch of notes, and I would have answered 100 questions, as you know. So I know you've got this, though. You're a bunch of smart kids. You can always look this up on Khan Academy. You can always ask another adult or a sibling, and you can always ask me, so don't hesitate to reach out. Okay, have a good day, you guys.